Brilliance Audio presents Smarter Next Year, the revolutionary science for a smarter, happier you, by Dr. David Bardsley. Performed by Tom Parks. I am going to ask you to take a few moments and reflect on your own life. See if you can identify the time of your peak mental ability, meaning the time period when your cognitive powers were at their best, when you could take in large amounts of new information quickly, understanding it easily, when your recall was fast, sharp, and accurate. For some of you, it may be right now, at this current time in your life, but others often point to some time in the past. Many say it was perhaps their high school years or their college years. Certainly, those are times in our lives when we made a great deal of effort to take in a large amount of information in a relatively short period of time. But it is not necessarily the time of our peak cognitive abilities. In fact, the human brain does not fully mature until we are into our mid to late 20s. When you ask people to identify the time in their lives when they were in their best physical conditions, most people have no problem answering. In fact, they usually admit it was some time in the past, often very far back in the past. They will often regale you with stories of the good old glory days of their physical prowess. Conversely, I find that most people do not like to admit they are not as smart as they used to be. Or, if they will admit there has been a decrease in brain power, they often attribute that to the aging process. We assume that as we get older, our cognitive abilities slowly start to erode. The good news is that all the latest neuroscience is telling us there should be no decrease in our cognitive abilities, none whatsoever, until we are into our 70s and 80s, and even then, it is not inevitable. Any decrease that does occur before this is often due to a very pervasive condition called mild cognitive impairment, which we will speak a great deal about in the following chapters. I promise not to bore you with a lot of biochemistry or neuroanatomy, but it is critically important for you to understand what chemical processes take place in your brain on a daily basis, related to your intelligence, that you have a great deal of control over. If you were to look up the definition of intelligence in a series of dictionaries, you would find slightly differing definitions, but they all basically boil down to this. Intelligence is the ability to take in new information, understand that information, store it, retrieve it, and then use it in some meaningful way. In 1983, the psychologist Howard Gardner put forward his theory of multiple intelligences, which is now the most widely accepted intelligence theory. In his book Frames of Mind, The Theory of Multiple Intelligences, Gardner claims there is not one intelligence, rather there are 8 separate and distinct intelligences, and each one of us possesses all 8 of these intelligences at varying levels. Here are the 8 intelligence categories explained in detail.